except in emergency if the engine-driven pump fails.
Here's the landing gear warning light. It's a very important little item. When you push the throttle forward on takeoff, the warning light will come on and will remain on until the wheels have been retracted and are definitely up and locked, at which time the light will go off. It will remain off until your throttle is almost fully retarded, as in coming in for a landing. The light will then come on and stay on until you have lowered your landing gear and it's fully down and locked.
You've got standard instruments on your panel. Flight instruments are in the middle. Your engine operating dials are on the right.
Notice that the speed limit on this airplane is redlined at 500. Here's your fuel level warning light. Remember that when it comes on, you've got a maximum of 20 minutes left to find a place to sit this baby down. And this is the light for your turbo, which you don't have to worry about for a while, but which works like this. At turbo speeds around 1500 RPM, this light flickers. That tells you the light is in working order. Then it goes off until your turbo reaches about 18,000 RPM. And then it starts to flicker again. When your turbo gets up to 18,250 RPM, the light comes on steady and stays on steady until you reduce turbo speed below critical. The idea in high altitude flight is to fly with this light flickering. Of course, you won't have to pay any attention to that until you get into altitude work. Now, the instruments on your panel are pretty much standard. Your criticals are shown in red, and you're okay so long as you're in the green. You've got your checklist against which you can double check your limits. Here is your parking brake. And here are your oxygen controls. Before you start going on altitude missions, the oxygen officer will give you the details on your oxygen equipment. You'll want to know how to check your oxygen equipment carefully, especially for leaks. You've got a blinker to show when you're receiving oxygen with this demand type system. Here's a supply warning light, and there's your supply gauge. When the time comes, you'll get all the facts, so you'll always know how to use your equipment. Over here is your cowl flap control. Open for starting. You've got some radio equipment over here. It's simple enough, but you'll get the details from your radio officer. Here's your tail wheel lock. With the handle back, the tail wheel is unlocked for taxiing, pushed all the way forward, and it's locked for takeoff and landing. That's your flap equalizer. To check for equal pressure, notice this rod. It should stick out 3/8 of an inch. You can make this check only when the engine is running. Now then, your canopy will slide forward when you press that release latch. Go ahead, try it. When you get it closed, take your finger and feel right under here for this nubbin. If you can feel it, she's locked all right. Right. If you want to get the canopy, you pull that ring and press the canopy release at the same time. And wind pressure forces the canopy back. Now then, if your canopy ever gets jammed on the ground, you've got these levers on each side. When you push them up, the glass panels fall out.
Well, that looks like about everything. Except there sure is a lot of stuff in that switch panel.
Oh, don't let that bother you. These are all circuit breakers down here, pop-out fuses. These are your light switches. They're all labeled, and you can study them. This is the ammeter. And here's the gun sight light rheostat. Well, what you've got to do now is give yourself plenty of drill in this cockpit. You want to know the importance of every instrument and exactly how and why to use each one of them.
So remember, when you've got this 47 up in the air, it's too late to start thinking about what you're going to do. Play around with the cockpit trainer in the pilot's room. It isn't meant to be a substitute for the real thing. It's a training device that'll help you learn the cockpit in your spare time, if any. You're going to know this cockpit blindfolded before you fly the airplane, and time and drilling yourself is the only way you're going to really know it.